Baby Dude is back with another Baby Dude interview today with a dad and Pro Bowl NFL quarterback, Gus Frerotte. Gus, good to see you. How you doing?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
I'm I'm doing good. A little stress getting this one moving, but we're doing good. I'm having you on
Well,
today.
technology doesn't always agree with
Oh,
us.
dude, tell me, I work with students. I'm a teacher, so Zoom every day is like driving me crazy, man.
Yeah, I've heard about from, family members and people I know that are teachers, and it's just tough. And how do you know what the kids, I think the parents are ready for their kids to go back to school, and it's been as hard on them as it has been on you, the teachers.
Absolutely. And this is always a fun one too. When you see the kids like this all day,
Yeah.
they don't respond. You can't see their face. It's a mess. Um, anyway, Gus, I saw that you have a podcast, Huddle Up with Gus, and it's kind of how it sparked me to be like, hey, Gus has some kids and is a dad, and I just wanted to catch up with you and see how things are going.
The podcast is going well. I'm going to be switching over to Sounder FM, which is Sounder's a new platform, which I'll be excited to switch over to. But the podcast is going well. I interview great people. I got another Viking coming on Friday who I'll be interviewing and putting it out in the next few weeks, Matt Burke. So Matt and I will be talking about some of the old days and what he's up to. So I'm pretty excited about that. I had my sons actually do the first podcast of the year this year. They did it together, talking about everything they love to do. So I think it went really well. It sounded good. They did a good job with it. So I'm excited where it's going, and hopefully 2021 will be a good year, and I can get out and about a little bit and go, interview people face to face.
Yeah, very cool. As a dad, so you had your kids while you were playing quarterback in the NFL, correct?
Yeah, I had my kids early. A lot of people don't, but I had my kids really. My wife and I, it was after our first year playing, and we're the same. So I always say us and not just me. But um, it was after our first year. We had our daughter Abigail, and now she's in vet school at Penn, and time flies. And I think about all that and how fast it all goes. From when I was actually recruited to college, my college coach sent me a picture of a football card his son had of me, and coach, I said, Coach Rader, can you believe it was 30 years ago that you actually, maybe 31 years ago, that you walked into my house in Fort City, Pennsylvania?
Wow.
Just amazing how time flies.
Time flies. So doing these interviews, I talk to a lot of race car drivers and TV guys or whatever. It just, my always question is, how did you do it, Gus? Like you said, you had kids early while you were playing in the NFL, and you have you and your wife. Dude, I have two boys, and one's 2 and one's 6 months. Like I'm staying at home, and it's hard, like working from home. How did you manage to like train as an NFL quarterback? And you played for a bunch of teams, like from moving city to city. Like, how did you balance and manage all that?
Well, first and foremost, I had an amazing wife in Anne, and we kind of, we were married young, and we were together probably since our third year in college, and so what a lot of young couples go through, we went through all of that, and then all of a sudden we have kids, right? And then we have 3 kids, and then it gets tough to manage all that, but you do it because they're a lot of fun, and you put a lot of time and effort into it. And I think that if you're going to play in the NFL and you want to have a family, you got to make sure that you spend time with your family. You can't just go out and hang out with the dudes all day. So I felt like when I went to the locker room, I had a lot of fun. I did what I had to do with the guys. Now, that's not that I didn't go out ever or do anything, but I tried to spend a lot of time with my family. And then when I moved from team to team, because I did play for 7 teams, big goal for me was taking my family with me everywhere we went. And the only time we never did that was my last year playing with the Vikings, and I commuted from St. Louis to Minnesota. And
Wow.
so, but I had a great apartment in Uptown, and it was so much fun. The kids came, and we'd walk around the lakes and go eat. I mean, it's amazing food there, and we just had a blast.
Yeah, Minneapolis is a great city. I live in LA now, but I grew up there, and I was gonna share a story with you. I remember when I was at the game where you threw a 99-yard touchdown pass to Bernard Berrien, right?
Right.
I have never been at a live sporting event where everybody saw it. And when you went back, I remember like it's one of my favorite sports memories where you let go of the ball and the entire Metrodome went silent. Like it was completely silent in there because everyone saw him just streaking. And when he caught that ball, like that place erupted. It's one of my favorite moments with my dad being at that and cheering and high five. And dude, that's an NFL record, man. Like 99, you can't
Yeah,
get
no,
further.
well, Minnesota was always one of my favorite places to play. The fans were just incredible. The dome was awesome. Had so much fun. When I was there in 03, 04 and playing with Moss and Culpepper and all those guys, and we had a great team then, it was just so much fun. And then being able to come back in 08 and having a great memory like that, it was just an incredible experience. And I love the fans in Minnesota, and that, I'll never forget that play as well. And you just don't get that opportunity, where the fans were already kind of geared up because we had a big goal line stand on our defense. The Williams brothers just holding strong in there, and all of a sudden we get the ball, and they don't score. The Bears don't score. We get an opportunity, and the coach calls all go, and you're like, really? All go right now? Sweet. And then they play the perfect coverage, and Peanut Tillman cheats a little bit, and the rest is history. And Bernard was happy as anyone just because that was his old team.
Yeah, he literally burned his old team. That's what he did. Yeah,
and we had Coach Childress was a great coach, and we had a great year, and the fans were just, I can't say enough about Minnesota. My wife and I, and all my friends that I still have there, are just incredible people. It was a lot of fun, and to be in Minnesota that short time.
Awesome. Yeah, all Viking fans. I have a couple of buddies I just talked to, and I was like, hey, I'm going to have Gus Frerotte on my little baby dude interview thing here. And everyone remembers those times. Like, Gus, I think you were a great quarterback for the Vikings. Everyone remembers that. So, yeah, we thank you.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. You can wish you could go back and do it all over again, but definitely those are some strong memories I have of playing in the NFL.
Awesome. Another question as a dad, your kids are growing up a little more. Like I said, I have two little kids. And the question I always like to ask athletes is, I'm no professional athlete, but I grew up playing sports. And when you have kids, you kind of like, I hope they play this, and I hope they do this. And what is your line of pushing kids to play sports, or obviously not pushing, or like, how did you find a balance to do that as a pro athlete yourself?
I just think that everybody's different, right? And you can't make your kid into somebody they're not. And no matter who you are, if you're a professional athlete or whoever, you just don't know. And what we try to do with our kids was, from the time they were little, was try to have them play as many sports as possible. And that was the way we found out which ones they liked, which ones they didn't like, because I knew that they may not like football, but they may like soccer, they may like basketball, they may like whatever. And through all that stuff, we had them play a bunch of different sports when they were young. They went to a school in St. Louis from 7th grade on where they had to play multiple sports, which I really loved. And I think just sports teaches kids so much about life and being with other people, socialization, all that stuff that we're all missing right now. And sports helps us through all that stuff. But for me, the hard part is when you're a dad and you're out there and they're 8 years old, you can't expect them to be an NFL quarterback or an NFL running back, or, you know what I mean? You just have to kind of go with it. And that was something I had to learn and deal with. And it really took me a long time to understand that I just needed to be there for them and not be a coach, not be a guy who wanted them to be the best, right? Just be there for them. And so we went through some of those struggles. And as a dad, some of that was hard, but you just learn to live with it. And by the time they got to high school, I said, I really want to be their kind of friend, not their coach, and all that stuff, and make sure that we can get along the rest of our lives, because I've seen a lot of things in this time, and that doesn't always happen. So we tried to be there for them as best we could and support them and just let them have fun and then figure out what sports they want to be in.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great advice for dads in general, because I've been to many. I work at a high school, so I've been to a lot of high school football games, and growing up myself and seeing a lot of parents who very much overstep their kids' athletic endeavors, I guess you'd call it, where it gets a little rough and almost cringeworthy. So it's good to hear real real athletes say, hey, just kind of give them their minute and let them figure it out for themselves. I think that's great advice for dads and parents in general.
Yeah, I think the most important part is on the ride home, you know. And I definitely was guilty of this, was asking too much or saying too much, or why didn't you do this? You should have done this. And just learning through life, if I had anything to say, is on the ride home, talk about something else. Talk about their favorite music or what they're doing in school, and leave what they did on that field or court or whatever behind, and let them come to you and ask questions, right? And I feel like just because I was an athlete, I thought I knew it all, and I really didn't. And I wish I could go back and change some things, but you got to live and learn. And so if I had any advice is on that car ride home or wherever you're coming from, let it go and talk about it later.
That's really amazing, Gus. I actually had Cadre Ishmael a couple weeks ago, and he brought up the car ride home because his son played high school football, and he brought up the exact same thing of let the car ride home, don't dig in, don't tell them that. And it's really like when you said the car ride home, I'm like, wow, I guess that's the thing, like the car ride home.
I'm sure my kids would tell you a different story, right? That dad never shut up on the car ride home. But just from experience, I'm saying let it go. Let the car ride home be fun. I know it's not always easy, but you know, I had a dad who was very tough on me growing up, and you know, he was a good guy, but just sports, he was tough on me, and some of that carried over to my kids. And I, you know, if I could go back and change anything, that's what I would change.
Right, for sure. Well, I'm sure you'd probably not as rough as you'd think either. Like, I know, like you said, like, oh, they'd probably tell you a different story, but it's probably not that much different, I'd imagine. But where are you
Depends
located
which one
now?
of them you're talking to.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's funny. Where are you located now, Gus? Where's home for you?
We live in Pittsburgh. We moved back here. My wife and I both grew up here.
Awesome.
I left here and went to the University of Tulsa. She stayed and went to Pitt. And then, you know, I came back home and I worked for the Pittsburgh Pirates after my senior year in college in football. I interned with them and then was drafted, and we eventually moved to Washington, D.C. But we're back in Pittsburgh now. We really enjoyed Pittsburgh. But who knows? We're so used to moving around. We may be moving again. You never know.
Sure. And I guess last but not least, I'm curious, since I do this baby dude thing and I interview dads and also review baby products because no guys do that. So I'm like, I'll do that. And just what things work for me. What's something that was key for you? If you can go back and remember products that you're like, oh my God, I needed this as a dad, or a funny story of baby time.
Well, you know, because you're 6'5", you know, and you're big, and all of a sudden you got this little baby right there and you don't know what to do. And my wife was a nurse, so it really helped, right? So she understood a lot of that stuff. She's dealt with all that. She's just like, just get in there. You're not going to hurt them, you know? And a lot of times guys will just feel like they're going to do something wrong or whatever. And I think it's like anything else, you know, you just got to go in, you got to change your diaper, you got to do all the things you got to do. And, you know, and the biggest thing is to support your wife or your whatever, you know, if you're home all the time, you do your share. And I think that's what helps. But for me, I mean, we always loved when we could find a product that could give you that, you know, 25 minutes of peace, right? It might be in a little walker that they zip around the floor on, or like one of those bouncy swings you put in the doorway, anything like that that could give you some peace where you could sit down. And then obviously, you know, finding a good babysitter is always key as well.
Right, exactly. Make sure you get a date night here and there, which we cannot do right now so much. But
right.
Yeah, getting a babysitter, and the bouncy door jumper is our go-to for 20, 30 minutes to be like, oh my God, just give me a minute. Just give like,
right.
We have a 2-year-old too who doesn't never sit down. He never sits, and he's always.
Yeah.
But yeah, the jumper's a good.
Well, and then when we lived in Denver and I played for the Broncos, they were a little older, but they were still kind of, you know, Gabe, my youngest, was maybe, I don't know what he was, 4 or 5 at that point. No, he's probably 3. But we got him those electric cars, like the ones, like the bigger ones you can sit, like 2 of them could sit in and drive themselves. And like we had a couple neighbor kids who had those too, and they would just go out all the time in the cul-de-sac and drive those things
Just
around.
cruise.
And like, they were the best things ever. Like, you charge the battery, let them go. They just had fun. And, we were in a cul-de-sac, so it was really nice.
Yeah, especially with the two boys. Maybe, yeah, I have to look into that and let them drive each other around a little bit and kind of do
Yeah.
their own thing for sure.
Yeah, my daughter she never was into it. And if she did get in there, to try and do it, they would push her out and say, get out of the way, Abby.
Right, exactly. Boys and their sisters for sure. I'm going to ask this question just because you can see I got the Viking helmet. I got a Broncos helmet right here. I'm from Minnesota. My wife's from here. She's a big Broncos fan. Vikings, Broncos, Gus. What you got?
Well, I don't know. You know what? I had a lot of fun with both groups. I did play for the Vikings twice, so I'm going to have to say the Vikings.
She'll like that. Sure, I'll give that
yeah,
one.
but there is something pretty cool about playing in front of a packed house at Mile High Stadium.
Sure.
With the weather and being outside. The dome is definitely one thing with Minnesota, and it's completely different. The new stadium is just crazy now, what it's like. But I was playing in the old dome, which you saw the game in. And then, and I was actually playing in the old Mile High, not the new one. So, both places were great. I think both organizations were a lot of fun. And I got to play for both owners of the Vikings, Redmond Combs, and the new owners. And they were both wonderful, and Pat in Denver was always really good. I just had a good time with both. My family loved both places, but I did play for the Vikings twice, so I'm gonna have to give the Vikings the nod.
I'll take that one for sure. Gus, you had a great career. You sound like a great dad, and it sounds like your kids are on the right track to going to school, like you said, for being a vet and all, like awesome stuff, man. I appreciate you coming on. I know you had to bounce out, and everybody, like his podcast, Huddle Up with Gus, check it out. And I'll put the links on here so everybody can find you. It's really cool to see you. And thank you for letting me share my memories and hearing your tips of being a dad. I think it's really cool stuff to hear from dads in different statures and different things. It's really neat.
Yeah, it's crazy. My kids are all older. A lot of guys that I played with didn't have kids till they were older. My daughter graduated from Haverford. Now she's at Penn Vet School. My middle guy, Gunnar, just graduated from William & Mary last year. And then my youngest, Gabe, is graduating from Delaware this spring. So it goes really fast. You blink, and my wife and I always say, like, man, we blinked, and they're adults and they're driving their own car, and you just go through all the things. So enjoy every moment of being a dad. That's all I got to say.
Will do. Thank you so much, Gus. Have a great rest of your week, and thanks. And we'll talk again maybe in the future when our kids are having grandkids. It'll be Jeff the baby dude and Jeff the baby grandkids. We'll see if we can work something out.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Jeff. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Baby dude out Skull, exactly.